Good evening. Let us come quietly into the sanctuary of consciousness. Let the hands fall open, the breath soften, and the mind loosen its grip on plans and projections. We are not gathered to speak of money or markets or men and women who might enrich us. We are gathered to attend the presence to that which is before money and after money, beneath persons and beyond conditions. The purpose of our work this week is the development of spiritual consciousness. Spiritual consciousness is the ability to see that which is invisible to sight, to hear that which is inaudible to ears, to touch that which cannot be grasped by hands. It is the faculty by which we know what is, though the senses deny it and the headlines contradict it. We will not hurry. We are not adding anything to life tonight. We are stripping away the veils that make what is already here seem far off. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and inform God of your needs. Not be still and calculate your provision. Be still and know. If we accomplish that much, if we touch, even faintly, the knowing we have done the only real work there is. I know what presses upon you. The modern mind has learned to carry a daily inventory of dangers. The rent, the employment chart, the accounts that tilt downward, the body with its whispers of age, the children's future, the world's trembling. We do not condemn this fear. We recognize it as the mind's honest report on a universe of things outside itself. But hear the Master. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. If it is the Father's good pleasure to give, then it cannot be our burden to get. If the kingdom is given, then supply is not a parcel to seize, but a presence to behold. So our premise is simple, and it will not change through these days. Supply is not a thing to acquire. Supply is a reality to be perceived. The lilies of the field do not calculate. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. The birds of the air file no forms in triplicate, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. The Master was not teaching irresponsibility. He was unveiling reality. He was pointing to that dimension where being precedes having, and where having is only the shadow cast by knowing. Let us be frank. The habit of looking out there has worn a groove in the mind. The groove says, if I have them, then I have supply. If I have it, then I am secure. If I hold this, then I can rest. Oh no. That is the hypnosis. Rest precedes holding. Security precedes having. Being precedes form. We are here this week to reverse the order in consciousness, and reversing it, to discover that nothing essential was ever missing. Therefore, we begin with a discipline that is not grim, but gentle and sure. On waking in the morning, before the foot finds the floor, turn within and acknowledge, I and the Father are one. All that the Father is, I am. All that the Father hath is mine. Do not make a petition. Make an acknowledgement. We are not trying to bring a distant God to a needy scene. We are letting the already present life announce itself. The kingdom of God is within you. Within does not mean inside the body. It means within consciousness. Within this sanctuary, we are establishing now. If you hear in these words a promise, good. But more than a promise, hear a practice. We will not attempt to pull supply out of persons or pry it out of circumstances. We will relinquish the exhausting game of angles and advantages, and we will train the inner eye to see the fullness that is here. This is not philosophy for the pleasant hour. This is the law of being. As within, so without. When the within knows, the without conforms. When the within is anxious, the without multiplies phantoms. Tonight we choose the knowing. We consent to be still and to let the Father's good pleasure reveal itself as the very life we are. Let us be very honest with one another. The mind has been schooled to believe that supply lives in channels, an employer, a customer list, a patron, an investment account, a government program, even a benevolent uncle or a generous congregation, and for the spiritually inclined, perhaps a teacher, a practitioner, or an organization. And every time we lean our weight upon a channel, we whisper to ourselves, the source is over there. Oh no, that whisper is the poverty itself. The kingdom of God is within you. The moment we make a person or institution our reservoir, we rehearse the belief that the spring is elsewhere and that we are here, thirsty and apart. I am not finding fault. I am describing a mechanism. Spiritually considered, what you assign away cannot be realized where you are. If peace belongs to a distant temple, your living room must be restless. If security is locked in a vault across town, your heart must pace the floor. If your provision is lodged in a client you are trying to keep or a career you are trying to rescue, then their absence becomes your famine. Do you see the subtlety? Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. Not because princes and persons have no place, but because to grant them the throne is to deny the king within. As long as power is over there, the Christ here must remain a concept instead of a realized presence. Now, practical frankness, there was a day when, in a pinch, you could send a telegram to a practitioner in another city or ring up a ministry's silent hour and draw courage from their consciousness. That day served its purpose, and I honor it. But the day is passing. Wires fail. Phones go out. Markets pause their trading. Employers fold. Well-meaning friends cannot be reached. And what is left? Only the consciousness you have cultivated. They that were ready went in with him to the marriage is not a story of favoritism. It is instruction. Keep oil in your lamp. Do not attempt to borrow your light at midnight. The Christ within is not an emergency generator to be rented. It is the light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Our work is to know it where we are. Let us correct the picture gently. Channels are innocent. They are streams. The error is to mistake stream for spring. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and cometh down from the Father of lights. The check that arrives, the order that is placed, the hospitality extended, these are faces the one gift may wear. Rejoice in them, but do not bow to them. If one mask falls away, the giver remains and another mask appears. When we worship the mask, we fear its removal. When we know the giver, we are at rest while forms change. How do we begin to dissolve the poverty of outsourcing? By interruption, not of outer activity first, but of inner attribution. The moment you catch the mind saying, if only that person would come through, when that approval lands, if the market turns, pause, withdraw the invisible cords you have cast over there. In the silence, acknowledge, Father, thou art the life, the mind, the substance, the law of this moment. I and the Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine, not to persuade God to act, but to cease denying where God already is. You may add the humility. that shields from personal strain. I can of mine own self do nothing, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. There goes the burden. There comes the authority. Inner, quiet, sure. Do not hear in this a scolding. You have done only what the world taught you to do. The world trains us to count outlets and to forget the current. The gospel trains us otherwise. Look unto me, and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth. We are not becoming irresponsible toward our duties. We are becoming responsible to reality. We will continue to meet deadlines, return calls, do excellent work. But we will not attribute cause to the effect. We will cease from man, as the prophet says, whose breath is in his nostrils, and we will rest our weight upon the presence that never exhales its last. Then the fear of loss begins to drain away, and with it the frantic clutching that kept supply at arm's length. Separation relaxes. Oneness comes forward, and what seemed out there reveals itself as the very life here, moving as grace through whatever channels are at hand. Let us take a picture into the silence and hold it, not as poetry, but as practice. See a single wave lifting from the body of the sea, glittering, shaped for a moment as crest and curve, and hear it crying, water, water, who will give me water? You smile at the absurdity, for the wave is water. Its form comes and goes. Its height rises and falls. Its outline appears and dissolves, but its substance is the ocean itself. The wave has no bucket to carry in reserve, no pantry behind its back, no friends to borrow from. It draws by being, not by begging. It does not compete with the next wave, does not fear the tide's recession, does not covet the curl across the reef. It is one ocean in one motion. Now, the error that creates our hunger is precisely this. We have consented to a mental picture of ourselves as a wave cut off from the ocean. We have breathed in the suggestion that we are a private life pocketed away from life, a little mind apart from mind, a clipped branch surviving on dew, a mortal self with a personal reservoir that must be guarded, gamed, and refilled by transactions. The moment we accept that picture, the world turns into a marketplace of scarcity. Depletion becomes plausible. Competition becomes logical. Abandonment becomes a terror. Lack begins not when the numbers drop, not when the appointment cancels, but when we agree to be the separate wave that begs. Hear the remedy in the Master's words, simple as dawn and radical as creation. I and my Father are one, not a truce, not a treaty, not a partnership with separate boundaries, one. All that the Father hath is mine, not earned, not rationed, not withheld, and then granted for good behavior, inherited as being. In him we live and move and have our being. If we live and move and have being in God, how shall we fall out of the one, life, and starve? Oh no, we may dream of exile, but when we waken, we discover the sea under the wave. Carry this into the day where the mind has drawn hard lines. Money, opportunity, health, companionship. They appear outside only to the sense that imagines itself outside the source. To the beggar wave, money is a distant shore that must be reached. Opportunity is a passing boat that must be flagged down. Health is a fountain somewhere else. Companionship is a separate heart to be won and kept. But to the ocean, the self, to the consciousness that knows oneness, these are modes of one. Presence moving as what is needed, where it is needed, when it is needed. The form will rise and fall like waves. A contract here, a gift there. Strong vitality today, quiet recuperation tomorrow. conversation for a season, solitude for a stretch. The substance does not vacate. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. The shepherding is the substance, holding the changing flock of forms. You say, but my account is low. The doctor's report is cold. The house is quiet, and the phone is still. What now? Do not run to the shore with a bucket. Do not sign the wave up for swim lessons in fear. Stand still in the inner sea and let truth redraw the picture. Father, I do not ask thee to send thyself to me. I acknowledge thyself as the substance, law, and life of this very being. I and the Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. Let this not be a speech at God. Let it be the cancellation of the image that begs. Sit long enough to feel the soft, weighty fact that you do not live on the ocean. You live as the ocean expressing. The anxiety will not surrender at first glance, but each return weakens the spell. Practice this even in the small hours. When a bill arrives, before you figure, remember the wave. When a door seems to close, before you knock on 10 more, remember the wave. When the body complains, before you argue, remember the wave. Not as denial of the seen, but as restoration of sight. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. The withness is the withinness. The ocean does not accompany the wave like a friend. It is the wave's very being. Every time you choose this picture, you loosen the clenched fist of separation, and you come home not to a thing gained, but to a reality seen. And in that seeing, hunger fades. For you discover that supply is not delivered to you, it is revealed as you. Let us now let the metaphor bow to the word. I and my Father are one. Do not hear that as religious poetry. Hear it as identity. All that the Father hath is mine. Do not relegate that to the memorization of children. Receive it as a present tense fact of being. The Master did not speak in riddles to tantalize the devout. He unveiled reality. When he said, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, he did not add. After a lifetime of deserving, he declared giving is the nature of God and receiving is the nature of sonship. And when the Father in the parable says, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine, he is not negotiating a wage. He is revealing inheritance. Now, inheritance in spirit is unlike the legal documents of earth. It is not a parcel transferred from one separate owner to another. It is the perpetual availability of divine qualities. By reason of oneness, life is not allotted. It is the life that is God appearing as your life. Intelligence is not imported. It is the mind that is God shining as your clarity. Harmony is not arranged. It is the order of God registered as your experience. Supply is not stacked in bonds. It is the infinity of God flowing as forms suited to the hour. Money, when money is the language. Ideas, when ideas are the need. Strength, when strength is the call. Companionship, when companionship serves the way. All things that the Father hath are mine, said the Christ. And Paul echoes, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. Heirship, not achievement. Participation by being, not possession by grasping. Here is the paradox that saves us from strain. The moment the personal self leans forward to seize the inheritance, it vanishes from sight. The moment the personal self yields, inheritance appears of itself. Why? because the grasping one is the dream of separation, and there is no heirship in a dream. I can of mine own self do nothing, is the doorway. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Is the lighted room. Try to clinch a fist around the grace of God and you hold air. Open the hand and the living bread is placed without your maneuvering. Oh no, we do not manipulate God. We retire the manipulator and discover God already being God at the point of our need. Let us be frank with the anxiety that beats its drum about dollars. You say, if only the figures would rise, I would be at peace. But the shortage is not first in the figures. It is in a mistaken sense of sonship. Like the elder brother, we can stand outside the feast, resentful and counting, while the Father whispers, Son, thou art ever with me. Like the prodigal, we can rehearse speeches about unworthiness, while the robe and ring wait at the door. The remedy is not arithmetic. It is awakening. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. If the fullness is his, and you are his offspring, where is the line at which fullness stops and you begin? There is none. Only a hypnotic belief draws that border. So we practice not to earn, but to remember. On waking, not Father, send me supply, but Father, be thou the visibility of thyself as all sufficiency here. Through the day, not I must secure, but I consent to be the place where thy completeness appears. This is not passivity. This is true activity, the activity of spirit recognized. Rest your weight on sonship and watch how forms rearrange themselves in obedience to substance. Fear relaxes. Effort turns into effortless right action. And supply, which never was out there, stands revealed as your inheritance in oneness, as natural, as lawful, as certain as the ocean in the wave. How did the master feed a multitude with a few loaves and fishes? Was it by manipulating matter, by stretching bread like taffy across a hillside? Oh no. He lifted up his eyes, the record says, and gave thanks. He looked away from the arithmetic of sense and beheld the presence that is substance. How did he restore sight to the blind? By his capacity to see sight where others saw only organs that failed. He saw the light that lighteth every man, and beholding it, he spoke what he saw. Receive thy sight. How did he raise Lazarus from the tomb? Not by a battle with death, but by thanksgiving before the stone was moved. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and then the command that issues only from vision. Lazarus, come forth. How did he still the tempest when fishermen trembled? By perceiving peace, where the senses registered noise and danger. He did not climb the mast to bind the wind. He addressed what he beheld within. Peace, be still. What is the common faculty in all these acts? The capacity to perceive Spirit's presence where sense testimony reports absence, the ability to see that which is invisible, hear that which is inaudible, know that which cannot be weighed or counted. This is Christ consciousness, the soul's sight that discerns the kingdom within and lets it be the only law to the seen. Where others read vacancy, he saw plenitude. Where others counted deadlines, he beheld eternity. Where others bowed to law, he knew the lawgiver present as law fulfilled. Carry this from Galilee to your ledger and your calendar. How shall you find provision when the bank account says, not enough? When the employer says, no opening? When the calendar says, too late? By the same faculty, lift up your eyes not upward in space, but inward to the sanctuary and give thanks for the presence as sufficiency. Not thanks for a check that has not yet appeared, but thanks for God as the very substance life, and order of this moment. The sense report says nothing here. Christ consciousness says, all that the Father hath is mine. The senses say, wait for the market, the client, the approval. Spirit says, now is the day of salvation, because reality is not deferred. Do not mistake agreement for demonstration. Hearing this, admiring it, even repeating it, does not feed 5,000 thoughts of fear. It does not still the personal storm. Be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only. Doing in this way of life is seeing. It is the practiced return again and again to the inner altar, where we relinquish the verdict of appearances and rest in the Father within, who doeth the works. Sit with the figures, yes, but first sit with the presence. Read the report, yes, but first read the will. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. If you try to force appearances with personal thought, you will tire. If you consent to behold the invisible fact and let truth utter itself, you will live by grace. Some will say, but I have said the words, and nothing changed. Words do not change the sea. Sight reveals it. The Master did not perform by incantation. He lived from awareness. He thanked before evidence. He spoke from seeing. He refused the hypnosis of absence. Practice this. When lack presents itself, pause and acknowledge, I and the Father are one. Father, thou art the substance appearing as all sufficiency here. Remain there, not pleading, not arranging, until the pressure to manage subsides and a quiet assurance rises of itself. Out of that stillness, right action becomes obvious. A call you must make, a task you must complete, a gift you must offer, a rest you must take. Then forms begin to align, not because you force them, but because substance recognized inevitably casts its shadow as provision. Take no thought for your life, said the Master, not as counsel to indifference, but as instruction in the only faculty that proves God. Take no anxious thought, but take this scene. Do not count the loaves. Lift your eyes. Do not argue with the wind. Speak peace from the peace you have beheld. Do not pry open the tomb. Call forth from the life you have witnessed. This is how Jesus fed, healed, and raised. And this is how supply becomes visible where the senses shout nothing. When you see rightly, you discover that the desert is not empty, the night is not blind, the grave is not final, and your life is not outside its source. Let us face another layer of the hypnosis, for this one wears religious garments and speaks our phrases fluently. We have thought that because we have exchanged worry for affirmation, panic for visualization, we have left self-will behind. Oh no, self-will can study metaphysics and still be self-will. It can use scripture as a lever, meditation as a bargaining room, gratitude as a technique to force a deadline. It draws up outlines for God and pins them to the calendar. By this day, through that person, in this amount. It titrates prayer like a chemist and waits for the reaction. And all the while the heart beats faster, the breath shallows, the eyes keep flicking to the inbox, to the account, to the clock. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? The Master was not mocking our plans. He was releasing us from their tyranny. Hear the axe at the root. I can of mine own self do nothing. That is not resignation. That is the end of the false responsibility that exhausts and accuses. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Not sometimes, not when I have been good, not when the stars align always, except the Lord build the house. they labor in vain that build it. What is the vain labor? The invisible grind of the separate self pressing its will upon forms, trying to marshal people, events, and even spiritual truths into compliance with its fear-born program. The more it presses, the more reality seems to recede, because attention has fixed itself on shadows, measurements, comparisons, scenarios, while turning its back on the light that alone casts a dependable shadow. Do you see why personal control intensifies lack? Because it keeps our gaze on outcomes and arithmetic, on timelines and tactics. We say, I must make it happen. And with that one sentence, we declare that God is absent and that we, naked and small, must impersonate the source. That declaration, subtle but relentless, is the famine. It is the wave trying to propel itself by flexing its own curve. It cannot. The ocean moves, the wave consents. Not my will, but thine be done, is not a martyr's sigh. It is the law by which heaven appears on earth. Self-abnegation is not passivity. It is the liberation from the manager who has never managed the sunrise. It is the yielding of the imagined separate agent into the present activity of grace already functioning. It is ceasing to use truth and letting truth use us. Practically, it feels like this. We stop long enough to feel the clutching hand open. We say within, Father, I relinquish results, instruments, timetables, and procedures into thy wisdom. Be thou in me the doer, the thinker, the giver, the arranger. I can of mine own self do nothing. Do thy works as this life. We sit until the agitation thins and a quiet consent occupies the place where planning had sat in a high chair. Out of that quiet, a step becomes evident, sometimes vigorous action, sometimes a phone call, sometimes an apology, sometimes a rest, sometimes a gift. We are not idle, we are obedient. We are not drifting, we are carried. Try this through the day in small obediences. Before you answer an email that smells of fear, pause. Father, answer thyself here. Before you shuffle numbers for the 10th time, pause. Father, thou art the substance and law. Think thy accuracy as me. Before you press a friend for a favor, pause. Father, reveal thy channel as thou wilt. I refuse to outline. When the mind begins to count minutes and measure outcomes, return. I can of mine own self do nothing. Then listen. A yes will carry peace. A no will carry relief. A wait will carry rest. My times are in thy hand, sings the psalmist. And in that hand, the next hour ceases to be a threat and becomes an appointment. You will discover a strange economy. As the personal strain ebbs, efficiency rises. As the need to control drops, provision appears. As the identity of doer dissolves, works multiply. Paul confessed, when I am weak, then am I strong. For weakness to the personal sense is strength to the presence. The wave does not move less when it ceases straining. It moves perfectly because the ocean has its way. So with us, we are not producing supply. We are standing aside that supply may be visible. We are not wrestling forms into order. We are beholding the orderer whose presence is order. And then we can hear the Master's word without flinching. Take no thought, not because thought is evil, but because anxious thought is an insult to the Father within who doeth the works. Lay down the whip, lift up the eye, surrender the little engine, Receive the great motion, and you will find that what you were chasing begins to follow you. For surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, not because I have driven them, but because I have ceased to block their way. Let us bring the climactic word into the center of our practice. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. He does not speak as a poet soothing nerves. He speaks as one who knows the law by which heaven appears on earth. Take no thought, not as a counsel to negligence, but as an emancipation from anxious mental self-management. Anxious thought is an attempt to add cubits by arithmetic. It is the wave trying to hurl itself by flexing its curve. Oh no! Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? The answer is none. The relief is that you need not try. Now, do not mishear me. Take no thought is never an invitation to irresponsibility. We will pay our bills, return our calls, meet our appointments, and do excellent work. But we will not attribute supply to those acts, nor will we perform them under the lash of fear. The master joins the release with the replacement. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. This is the practical law of grace. The mind ceases to inventory channels, ceases to outline methods and timetables, and turns its attention to conscious union with the presence. That turning is not a sentence of passivity. It is the only activity that produces right activity without strain. How does this look with money and tomorrow? When the rent date approaches, when tuition notices arrive, when retirement calculations present themselves, the old habit is to manage reality by rehearsing disaster, by projecting scenes down the corridor of days. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. What takes thought for tomorrow? Grace the divine order, already operative the Father who knoweth that ye have need of these things. Your need is known before your sentence begins. To think that anxious thought adds accuracy to omniscience is the small jest we have been playing upon ourselves. Better to withdraw the jest and rest the case where it belongs. Father, thou art the law and substance of this very moment. Be thyself visible as sufficiency. I seek thee, not things. I consent to thy appearing as the things needful. Replace the fever with a rhythm. On waking, before you consult a balance, seek the kingdom. Father, I and thou are one. All that thou art is the life of this day. Sit long enough to feel the yoke ease. At the desk, before the figures, acknowledge thy intelligence orders this. Thy abundance expresses here. When mind lunges toward tomorrow's what-ifs, answer with obedience. Not my outlining, but thy will. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Peace is not a sedative. It is the atmosphere in which right forms are added with no private engineering. Understand the promise soberly. All these things shall be added unto you is not a pledge to deliver the personal program. It is a law that the forms suited to the hour appear as you abide in oneness. Sometimes a check, sometimes an idea, sometimes a sale, sometimes a silence that closes one door and opens a better one, sometimes strength to work, sometimes rest to heal. Your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. He knows the rent by its number, the grocery by its weight, the medicine by its dose, the companionship by its name. You need not instruct omniscience. You need only cease contradicting it with fear. Try this before you sleep. Lay tomorrow down. Father, I loose it and let it go. I refuse to take thought for it. Order thy day in me, and wake me when it is thy hour. Then rest. You will discover that morning meets you rather than you meeting morning. That appointments make themselves, that supply, unpushed, appears along the line of peace. Paul put it plainly, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. Thanksgiving is the sign that anxious thought has ended and grace has taken the field. Live there, and needs will not be pursued. They will be added. This is not theory for mystics. This is the practical law of grace for money. And tomorrow, seek the kingdom and let the Father within do the adding. Let us be plain with one another. This is not a weekend's charm or a slogan on the refrigerator. The purpose of our work is the development of spiritual consciousness. And that requires time under discipline, 6 months of returning, 6 months of acknowledgments, 6 months of letting anxious thought be answered by presence until the habit of separation is broken. If ye continue in my word, the Master says, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Continue day upon day until knowing replaces reciting and freedom replaces wishing. We will adopt a simple, holy rhythm on waking. Before the hand reaches for a device or the mind lunges for a plan, be still and know, Father, I and thou are one. All that the Father hath is mine, not by merit, but by oneness. Sit long enough to feel the crescent of effort soften. Read a line or two of scripture, not to collect promises, but to enter presence. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Before the first task, pause again. Father, think thy thoughts as me. Arrange thy order through me. Be thy sufficiency visible here. Then go about your work, but not alone. Each hour, or as often as you remember, stop for a breath and return. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. We will weave thanksgiving into this rhythm, not as optimism, but as recognition of what is. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, not after the deposit, not after the answer, but before the loaves are counted. The Master gave thanks when the hillside was still hungry. Give thanks quietly at the threshold of each activity. Thank you for thyself as the substance of this call, this meeting, this meal, this mile of travel. Thanksgiving closes the mouth of fear. It signals to the mind that grace has the field. When you spoon soup, when you open a ledger, when you write an email, whisper gratitude not to brighten mood, but to acknowledge God as the life and law of the moment. At midday, a longer pause. Be still and know that I am God. Lay the swirl of forms upon the altar, not my will, not my outline, not my rush. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. In the waiting, do not plan, listen. My sheep hear my voice. It may be a wordless assurance. It may be a nudge to act or to desist. It may be only peace. Obey peace. In the evening, review not the failures and triumphs of a person, but the faithfulness of presence. Where did I remember? Where did I forget? Then loose the day. Father, I release the images, the measures, the tomorrows. Order thy night in me. If you will do this, not heroically one day, but humbly many days, you will come to a threshold I have called transition. There is no calendar date for it, but there is a ripeness. One morning you will discover that truth begins to utter itself in you before you summon it. Verses arise unbidden. A line of prayer speaks you rather than you speaking it. The strain to remember eases, and remembrance becomes the very climate of your thought. Decisions that were heavy become light because a rightness presents itself without argument. Opportunities appear along lines you did not diagram. Your steps are ordered, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. You are no longer pushing the wheel of supply. You are watching supply reveal its own paths. Grace, not effort, is the primary actor. You are witness and willing instrument. Do not rush this moment. Do not demand its fireworks. Continue. Pray without ceasing, not words without ceasing, but recognition without ceasing. Abide in me, and I in you, said the Master. For as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, no more can ye, except ye abide. 6 months of abiding in simple returns, 6 months of thanksgiving before evidence, 6 months of pausing before action, and then, often suddenly as if a veil has fallen, you find that peace has moved from being a practice you keep to an atmosphere that keeps you. Then forms change. Yes, but the substance stands revealed. Needs present themselves. Yes, but they are met in the very place where you are staying your mind. This is transition, not the end of devotion, but the beginning of being carried. There is a law of the spirit that must now be embodied. Never refuse a call. From this moment on, when a request comes, when a need presents itself at your doorstep or in your inbox or across the street, or even as a quiet nudge in your own heart, recognize it not as an interruption of your life, but as a divine appointment in which life itself seeks to circulate. Supply is not a pond to be guarded. It is an ocean that moves as tide. The wave does not hoard its crest. It rises and falls in the giving and receiving of the sea. So with us, freely ye have received, freely give. Giving is not a subtraction. It is the evidence that you and the source are not two. Let us erase the fear at once, for this fear has paralyzed many a generous heart. If I answer every call, I will be emptied. Oh no, emptiness belongs only to the imagination of separation. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. This is not barter, it is law. When you allow the ocean to move as your wave, you discover that the motion refreshes the very form through which it passes. Service is not self-depletion when source is infinite. It is the sign of inseparability. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over. Do you hear the rhythm? Circulation, not accumulation, is the way of spirit. Now, what do I mean by a call? A call is not only a telephone ringing. It is the quiet practice of presence meeting a need wherever it appears. The phone rings and a friend's voice trembles with fear. Do not postpone compassion until your schedule is neat. Pause within. Acknowledge, Father, thou art the peace here, the answer here, the sufficiency here. Then listen and speak as moved by that peace. You pass a neighbor's house and feel an inner nudge to stop. Do not bargain it away with another day. Knock and bring nothing but presence. You may carry a loaf, a ride, a listening ear. You are prompted to give beyond your outline an extra tip to the weary waitress, a grocery card for the caregiver in line behind you, a quiet envelope for a student whose books are heavier than her purse. Do not wait to have more. He that observeth the wind shall not sow. Sow because God is your ocean. Watch how the sea returns 1,000 different ways, some of them money, many of them mercy. A call can be a business opening that seems inconvenient, an invitation to serve that does not match your plan. Remember the master on his way to Jairus' house, pressed by the crowd, when the woman with the issue of blood touched him. He did not treat her as an interruption to a scheduled miracle. He felt virtue, life go out of him, and turned to recognize her faith, a divine appointment within a divine appointment. If you will live this way, eyes lifted within, ears tuned for the shepherd's voice, you will find that appointments begin to keep themselves, and supply reveals itself along the line of obedience. Never refuse a call does not mean you become a frantic fixer. It means you refuse to harden your heart. Some calls are answered by silent prayer, some by presence, some by a word, some by a gift, some by a firm. No spoken in peace, because the Spirit did not send you there. The rule is not doing more. The rule is doing only what the Father doeth in you. The Son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth the Father do. If peace carries the step, take it. If peace withholds it, wait. Either way, you have not refused. You have obeyed the appointment. Practice it today. When the alert pings and your first thought is not now, stop. Father, is this thine? If a yes rises with quiet certainty, answer at once. If you are nudged to send a note of gratitude, send it before the mind bargains. If you sense to forgive a debt that keeps you awake at night, loose it and let it go into God. There is that scattereth, and yet increaseth. And there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. Poverty is the dam we build in a river meant to run. You will learn a holy arithmetic. Each obedience opens channels you could not have engineered. Each act of circulation verifies that source is present. Each divine appointment becomes a window for the kingdom to appear on earth. And you will look back and find that the needs you were managing began to be managed for you, not by people, but by principle, because you have consented to be the place where the ocean moves. Never refuse a call, and you will witness supply, not as storage, but as the living circulation of the infinite revealing itself where you stand. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. In serving him in the least, you discover him as the all. And in that discovery, lack dissolves, because love has found its outlet and its inlet in you. Beloved, here is a lesson the Spirit presses upon us when we begin to live as circulation. Do not confuse the rise and fall of waves with the presence or absence of the ocean. Forms the check, the client, the employer, the symptom, the market come and go as waves come and go. The ocean is the one, life, the one, substance. God is your sufficiency. We look not at the things which are seen, says the apostle, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. To measure your life by forms is to chain your peace to a weather report. To witness the substance is to let forms serve their hour without permitting them to name your source. Let us name the fear plainly. What if the income drops? What if the market turns? What if my employer closes? My strength changes. My body varies. Here, the inner correction we have learned to give ourselves. Oh no. Supply is not at the mercy of conditions, calendars, or economics. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights. And that Father is without variableness, neither shadow of turning. The adding and subtracting that appears on paper does not add to nor subtract from the infinite. The wave's height does not enlarge the ocean. The wave's trough does not diminish it. What, then, are we to do? when forms fluctuate. Stop measuring. Begin witnessing. Measuring is the habit of the separate sense. It counts, compares, foretells disaster, revises the outline, and calls that prudence. Witnessing is the posture of oneness. It turns within and beholds God present as the invisible substance of this very moment. I, the Lord, change not, and because I and the Father are one, the essence of my life changes not. Then, without argument, we let thankfulness rise not for this or that figure, but for the presence that is the life of every figure. Thanksgiving loosens our grip on yesterday's vessel so that grace may pour this hour's wine. Here is the simple, holy habit. When a form diminishes, when a contract ends, when a client departs, when a role shifts, when strength ebbs, do not panic. Do not freeze the river with reproach or rush to resurrect yesterday's shape. Return at once to source. Sit down inside and acknowledge, Father, thou art the substance of my life. Forms serve, thou suppliest. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Remain until the tremor yields to peace. From that peace, look out again. You will find that the scene is already in motion toward a new appointment. A call you had not counted, an idea you had not priced, a door you had not noticed, a rest you had not allowed. Let it come. Let forms change without losing the substance. Do you remember how Israel fretted about tomorrow's manna and tried to store it? It's spoiled. Grace is fresh because God is present. Clutching yesterday's container is how we miss today's appearing. The employee is a container. The market is a container. Even health and strength, as you have known them, are containers. The ocean is not married to any cup. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Not as this company, not as that client, not as that regimen, not as that trend. As the world giveth by form, peace fluctuates. As he giveth by substance, peace abides, while form serves and passes. If you will practice this in small moments, the large ones will not frighten you. When a payment is delayed, pause and say within, oh no, delay cannot delay God. Father, be thy sufficiency visible here. When the calendar clears unexpectedly, do not label it lack. Label it listening. Father, to what appointment does this space belong? When energy wanes, do not curse the body. Bless the presence. Father, thou art the health of my countenance. Show me the form thy health will take, work or rest, doctor or sleep, stillness or walk. You are not forbidden wise action. You are forbidden anxious authorship. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. You will discover a constancy beneath the flux. Checks may arrive in new envelopes. Work may shift to new tasks. Friendships may reroute. Strength may express as quieter capacities. But the shepherd remains, and I shall not want. Witnessing keeps you tethered to the one who never turns, while measuring ties you to forms that are born to turn. Let us choose our anchor. We walk by faith, by inner sight, and not by sight. We witness the ocean, and we consent to the tide. Then change, which once announced danger, becomes the servant that ushers in the next visibility of the same unchanging love. Let us now do the simplest and holiest work of our time together. Be still and know that I am God. We have spoken of witnessing rather than measuring. We have practiced turning from form to substance. Now we will place the last claim of the personal sense upon the altar. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Not later now. We will make no bargains, no mental trades, no outlines. We will loose and let go, and we will rest in the one who is already the life of all that concerns us. First, health. Here, Father, take all the health. Take the body as I have pictured it, the strength as I have scheduled it, the diagnosis I have feared, and the regimen I have tried to police. I release my control, my anxiety, my timeline. Be thou in me, thyself, as life, law, balance, and breath. I am the Lord that healeth thee. Thou art the health of my countenance. I do not demand a form. I consent to thy presence as the substance from which right form appears. I loose it and let it go into God. Now, wealth here, Father, take all the wealth, all the money, all the accounts, debts and credits, clients and contracts, income and outgo. The employer is a container. The market is a container. Thou alone art supply. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. I yield ownership and authorship. I surrender pride and fear. Be thou visible as sufficiency in whatever form thou wilt. My God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory. I loose it and let it go into God. And the future, our tomorrows, our plans, our roles, our years. Here, Father, take all the future. Take the calendar, the hopes, the worries, the contingencies. Take therefore no thought for the morrow. My times are in thy hand. I relinquish the story I have written for myself and those I love. I refuse to manage outcomes by fear. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Order thy day in me. Wake me when it is thy hour. I loose it and let it go into God. Now seal it. The wave does not negotiate for water. It does not hoard against drought. It does not direct the tide. The wave rests as ocean and moves as ocean. So do we. I and my Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. Oneness is not a prize earned by prayer. It is a reality recognized when self-ownership ends. Surrender is not losing. Surrender is remembering. In that remembrance, lack dissolves, not by magic, but by revelation. What we feared was absent, was present all the while as the very life within us. We are not making supply happen. We are consenting to its visibility. Let us sit one quiet minute more. Father, into thy hands I commend health, wealth, and future. Into thy hands I commend this self that has tried to manage thy universe. Be thou the doer, the thinker, the giver, the arranger. Keep our minds stayed on thee. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. From this moment on, when fear rises, return at once to oneness. Do not argue. Do not outline. Say quietly, oh, no delay cannot delay God. Scarcity cannot starve God. Tomorrow cannot outpace God. Father, be thy sufficiency visible here. Seek first the kingdom, and let the adding be thy work. Never refuse a call. Accept the divine appointments by which circulation proves infinity. And as forms change, measure nothing, witness all. Grace will perform its work. Peace will become the atmosphere of your going out and your coming in. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. We consent, we loose and let go. We rise as waves in the one ocean and move, not by might nor by power, but by his Spirit. Amen.